All right. Well, good to see everyone today, or if you're watching this recording, thanks for tuning in. My name is Zach. I'm a professional tutor at the Park University Academic Success Center. And tonight we're joined by uh, Margo Sinclair. She is a talent recruiter at the Kauffman School, and in particular focuses on hiring fifth to 12th grade teachers. And some of her past work experience. She taught fifth grade science at the Kauffman School. And then prior to teaching, she had 2 years with AmeriCorps. And with that being said, so Margo, I'll pass it off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Um, Today I'm going to share some different ways that you can get involved in education, even if you're not currently studying education or maybe have not considered it before. Because I think a misconception is often you have to go to get your bachelor's in education, you have to do student teaching, and that's the only way to become a teacher. And that has shifted, not only at our school, but other schools. Um, Knowing there's often a teacher shortage, we want to find other great ways to allow people to be in the world of education. So I'm going to start with a bit of my journey because I did not take a traditional route to teaching. I did not study teaching in my undergrad either. And so you might want to follow in a similar pathway to me or find one of the other options that I share. So some pictures of kiddos that I've taught throughout the years. This first photo with my full class is a group that I taught in San Jose, California. And I did start with AmeriCorps right after I graduated. My degree is in family science, so kind of a mix of social work and psychology, a lot of people skills, but not teaching specifically. I considered teaching, but was not quite sure, shied away a bit, and did not get my undergrad in that, and found a program through AmeriCorps to teach in a sense. So I moved to California and worked with City Year. So that's a nonprofit that serves in underserved schools all over the country. There's one here in Kansas City, but this specifically was in San Jose, California, where I taught my first after school program. I taught a lot of third graders, as you can see in this photo, and did literacy interventions during the school day. But all of that really led me to see a need in education and find a passion specifically for the students that I served, but education as a whole too. And so after my time there wrapped up of service, I wanted to find a way to serve in my own community. So I moved back to Kansas City and found a teaching program. For me, the route I took was through the Educator Academy, which I will give details on later. But essentially, I was placed with a mentor, got my certification, got my master's degree, all while teaching in my first year, kind of like student teaching through the Kauffman School. And so all the other photos here, these three kind of in the middle, are some of my students that I've taught at Kauffman. I'm now in my sixth year and I've transitioned to recruiting, which means I spend my days talking to educators, going to college campuses, talking to college students, reaching out to people and trying to share the work that we're doing and find a really great fit to be a teacher for the students that we serve here. We're going to go through a couple different things today, like what are some qualifications to be a teacher? Maybe why should I be a teacher? What are the benefits? Specifics around our school as one option as a place you can teach. And then the interview process if anyone is interested in going through that process after. I think to become a teacher, it is more than just a degree. At the Kauffman School specifically, we do not believe that that one test or your degree program is going to determine if you're a good teacher. I think it's a lot more about what do you believe in? What is your mission? Who do you want to serve? And to start all of that, you need a bachelor's degree. That doesn't mean it has to be an education, but you do need a degree to be a full-time teacher. Any type of degree will follow along a few different pathways later, but we'll work to get the process started. I think most importantly, it's really that passion to empower students and a desire to create a more equitable world through education, seeing that as a lever in the community. So I'm really looking for people who have worked with youth in some capacity. Maybe you were a summer camp counselor. I know that's something I did in high school and college that really gave me a kickstart to teaching. Or you work in a daycare, or maybe you've even just babysat and you've really enjoyed the interactions with young people and see that as a strength. And then your own personal qualities. Um, Maturity, humility, being able to reflect on the work that you've done and grow and have that whatever it takes attitude and mindset to do the work because it is hard work being a teacher. One of the biggest pieces of advice I give to people I'm interviewing is, hey, I want to see how you can take feedback, implement it, make changes quickly, and be coachable. Because while you might not come in with the background of, hey, I student taught or I went to classes for this, if you can take feedback when someone coaches you, you're going to grow really fast and be able to pick up on those teaching skills. Who could be a good fit for teaching? This is not an exhaustive list, but this is just an idea to get started. I think people who have a background in psychology, maybe you've done a lot of communication work or you've got those people skills you've been building. Some people are great teachers because they've studied one specific content area. I taught science. My undergrad was not in science. I had great coaches who taught me that content, but maybe you study math. You're like, man, I love algebra. I would love to teach freshman algebra and get them pumped about this content that I care a lot about. Another strong fit could be communications or really anything like reading or writing based. Maybe you want to dive into that world of ELA, or you've studied specifically early childhood or family science or like human growth and development and how people grow and change, and that helps you too. I don't think a degree determines if you're a strong candidate. It's more your passion, your experience, and what you want to get out of it. So we have teachers who were classically trained as a teacher, people who went to undergrad to become a teacher, passed all their tests, all of that. And we have teachers who did not do that and maybe majored in one of these other areas. But all of these could be a strong fit. There are a bunch of pathways, and I think now more than ever, as we know that we need great teachers, and there can be a lot of barriers to taking a test or getting the degree. And so we want to make other options accessible. If you just want to start off and get your feet wet, you can sub even if you haven't obtained your full bachelor's, but you do need 36 credit hours. That process is pretty simple. It's through the Department of Education. I work specifically with Missouri educators. I'm sure you can do this in Kansas and other states too. But you can go on the DESE website, DESE, and apply. All you have to do is submit your transcript with those 36 hours, go and pass a background check, and pay a $50 fee. Once you do all that, it takes a couple weeks to go through, and you can apply to work with an agency or a school specifically. I even know some college students who like, hey, it's senior year, maybe I have a lower course load and I'm interested in teaching. I might sub maybe once or twice a week to figure out if it's something I like. Most schools need subs. Not every school will like hire you full time with that, but you could apply to work at a school with the sub partnership. There are two other pathways that you could do to become fully certified, more than just a sub license. So this means you would have full certification. You could probably be hired at any school to teach. The first one is the American Board. This is ABCTE. It's an easier way to remember it. You go to their website. You do have to purchase a course. It costs about $2,000. But when I think about that investment versus, hey, I'm going to go back and get a full degree, that's a lot smaller and easier for you to get started. And if you're someone who's like, I'm pretty good at studying at my own pace and I'm comfortable with that, I can do that route, use their resources, study, take a test, obtain my Missouri teaching license. They do this in more states than just Missouri, but it's not every single state. So I would just go to their website and check and see if you meet those qualifications and which states you're interested in. Then my third option is alternative certification programs. I did the Educator Academy. It's linked here. If you want to explore this after, there's also Teach for America. These are going to be much bigger commitments than ABCTE, but less of a commitment than going back and getting another bachelor's degree. So these are programs you have to apply to, you have to qualify for, you can get into, but you can be placed in a school, excuse me, immediately and get started all while doing your training at the same time. For me, I did Ed Academy, and the first year I had a mentor teacher. The second year, I was a full teacher of record on my own. And then I also obtained my master's degree at the same time. And then you just commit to a few years serving in schools, and you are in that program and you continue to get mentorship and coaching and training throughout the program. Teach for America, similar, a little different. You do commit to 2 years of service in an underserved school. And again, that could be anywhere all over the country. Kansas City is one site for that. We love to hire Teach for America and Ed Academy teachers because they really align with our mission of creating college graduates and also supporting underserved students, mostly in the urban core of Kansas City. And so those are some different pathways you can take. There's going to be different schools, public schools, private schools, charter schools that have different requirements for what it takes to hire a teacher on. For us, we can have a certain percentage of our teachers who are fully certified and a certain percentage of our teachers who are not fully certified and still be an accredited school because we have so many resources, because we can train you and support you through a pathway while you're working with us. And so sometimes you have to complete these prior to starting. Some schools you do not. You would need to check with each school you're thinking about and talk to their staff to find out. But as an educator at our school, all of these are going to be ways that you can get involved and start your teaching career. I'm going to give a little info on the Kauffman School specifically, as that's where I work. That's what I do every day, and provide you with that specific opportunity. And so we're a free public charter school, 5th through 12th grade. Anyone in Kansas City, if you live within the Kansas City public school system district, you can apply and enroll in our school. By apply, I simply mean fill out a form with your information. You don't have to meet specific qualifications, pay, test. As long as we have space, you can enroll. So anyone can go through that process. If we're full, we do use a lottery system. So it's randomized. We just let students in as openings become available. The difference in a public and a charter school can be confusing. I'm not going to dive in too in depth, but basically we are a free independent school within a school district's boundaries, but we do operate on our own. So we're a school of choice. Families can choose to go to their neighborhood school or they can choose to go to our school. We have to meet state standards. We still get state funding, but we have some flexibility in how we reach our goals. So maybe our curriculum we choose and it's working for us and we keep that going, versus, hey, the whole district decides this as a whole. If you have questions later on like, hey, how does that really work? Please reach out to me. But those are the big headlines. For us, our sole goal is creating college graduates. And that can mean we want to send kids to and through college, and we want to support them for just life beyond high school, knowing whether they go into the workforce, a trade school, a 2-year, a 4-year school, whatever their route they take, we want them to be ready for the world after our high school. If we've just prepared them for high school, that's not enough. And so we have a lot of supports to do that. Specifically, we have a college access team who mentors our students. They have a college access seminar class that they go to in high school. And then they actually have alumni counselors who support them once they've left and make sure they actually get to those goals. They have the support that they need, which I think is really awesome. I did not have those resources myself as a high schooler. And so that's also another place where we would hire people other than just teaching. College counselors, that's an additional role that you could think about. We started in 2011, and so we've been around a little while now and had a few graduating classes. We started with 5th grade. We added 1 grade each year until we had 12th grade and graduated our first class in 2019. 100% of students that year were accepted into 4-year colleges, which was really huge for our kids, but for the community too. I think about the things that we do every day at Kauffman that drive our daily work. And a lot of this is about intent and impact. What are we trying to do? How is that landing? What are we committing to? And what do we need to like reassess? And so a lot of the work we do is figuring out what are our best daily practices? How do we best serve students? And like I said earlier, take that feedback to grow, to be culturally responsive educators and do what's best for our kids. One of the biggest factors that allowed me to be successful when I started at Kauffman and what drove me to want to pursue working at Kauffman was the coaching and the support that I knew I'd get. Being a first year teacher, whether you went to school for it or you didn't, is really hard. There is a lot of pressure. You're with a whole classroom of kiddos every day, behavior, content, figuring it all out. Like that's just a lot to handle, and it can be really hard if you don't have support. And so I toured, I saw at Kauffman, oh man, I'm going to have support if I go there and people who really want me to be successful and be a good teacher. And so whether you're new to teaching, new to Kauffman, you've taught for years, you're a first year teacher, you're going to get support in the form of coaching. This is really different from other schools that I've seen because a lot of our coaching is in the moment, it is live, it's while you're teaching. So the photo here is a picture of a teacher and a coach. They're just like checking in around students that day. But I know the rapport they've built, the relationship they've built has allowed them to be really successful and help that math teacher be more confident in the classroom. So a coach might come in and kind of watch you, observe you, and then give you feedback in the moment. Say, hey, try this, do that. It's very hands-on. And I often compare it to a sports team. If you're playing a sport, any sport, say you're playing basketball, your coach isn't just going to wait until the next day and say, hey, that was great. That was rough. Let's like fix it now. They're going to call a timeout and fix it in the moment. We want to treat our teachers the same way so that they can be best for kids. Yeah, and that's just really, really beneficial, especially for people taking these alternative routes to say, hey, I haven't learned the foundations of teaching, but I can still learn that on the job and be a really great teacher to best serve kids. I gave a quick schedule here because I think our day looks a little different than some schools. A couple things I highlighted. One, our team huddle. Every single day we're meeting together to collaborate, to work together, to make sure we're on the same page before we go into classrooms and really start learning. Another piece is plan time. So I highlighted lesson internalization. As a new teacher, this was crucial for me, especially as I was learning science for the first time. I had an internalization time every day where I met with my content team and I would go over what are we doing tomorrow? We would practice parts of the lesson so that I feel prepared and ready rather than just going in and saying, I've never done this content before. That's really tough. So that is one place where not only are you prepping and planning, but you're collaborating and you're getting to work with other teachers. Another thing that's different about our schedule is kids get out of class around 3:30. A lot of people just go home, but I know teachers at so many schools who they're taking their work home. They're grading, they're doing stuff by themselves after, and that makes their workday longer. Our workday is long, but we're doing a lot of that together. So we have work time right after school to connect, debrief, get support, get help, and do that while other people are around and you have resources. Quick plug on benefits just because I think teaching has a reputation of like, oh man, they're not getting paid enough, they're not getting great benefits. And that can be really tough. Teacher salaries are always being reviewed, and I think we've done a really good job to make sure we're at least in the top 25% of salaries across Kansas City and around this area. But we try to add a few other things that make it feel sustainable. So that might look like every 4 to 6 weeks, Friday morning, you get that time off. Maybe you want to use that time to schedule an appointment so you don't take PTO. That's really helpful. We also have breaks, which are nice. It's really nice to be able to take breaks and be with friends and family for holidays in the summer and still get a paycheck during that time. We also offer a lot of content specific training. So if you're feeling like, oh man, I did not study this and I'm coming in new, you're going to go through a few weeks really diving into your content so that you're ready to go. If after this you're like, hey, I want to learn more about teaching any of the programs I've talked about, or you specifically want to go through the interview process with our school, there are a few different ways that that works. I always love to hop on a phone call and just like get to know you, your interests, what are you looking for? And maybe that's to move forward with us, or maybe we have a different program I can recommend for you. The second step of our interview process is to do a Zoom meeting for an hour where we go over the ins and the outs of classroom coaching, routines, procedures. So you get a really in-depth look at what it's like to work here. And then we have an in-person final interview where you actually come and teach a sample lesson. That can feel intimidating if you've never taught before, but the intent is that you get to try it out and see what is it like? Do I like this? Could I see myself in this role? And we really want that to be hands-on learning with coaching and feedback, so you know what it's like if you were to work here. That's all the info I've got, but I've provided my contact info here. Like I said, my full-time job is hiring great teachers. And that might look like you work at our school, that might look like making a great connection. But I just really want to give people resources in the community and partner together to find more great teachers.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your presentation. You covered a lot of great points. Does anyone have any questions at all for Margo?
Let's see here. Can you hear me?
Actually, I would like to ask about a master's degree. If you have someone coming in with a master's degree that does not have certification, do the same rules apply as far as becoming certified? Say they have an education degree, but they don't have their licensure up to date, or they need to redo something.
Um, Let me try to think about this. They still could teach at our school. You would still have to get some form of certification through either, you could start with a subcert, as long as you have your bachelor's, but you'd still need to go through like one of the other routes to get like the fully certified piece. It doesn't really make a difference for us if you have just the bachelor's or the master's, other than you would get an increase in pay for the master's.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then I think Finn maybe was trying to ask something.
Yeah, I was trying to get my video to work.
Oh, you're good.
I didn't know that free charter schools existed. That's so
Yeah.
fun. I had a question more about your school specifically.
Uh-huh.
What do you practice that better prepares students for college? Since you said, that
Yeah.
you have a pretty good turnout for people transitioning from school
Yeah.
to college.
I think there's a lot of things, so I'll give you like a couple tidbits. One example I can think of is I talked to some seniors the other day because they're going to help me lead a tour with some visitors next week. And I was like, I just want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions of like what it's been like to go through this journey from 5th through 12th grade. And they were like, yeah, teachers really help us prepare for college. I was like, okay, what's from your side? How do you think they prepare for college? And they're like, in 5th grade, they like tell us what to do. They guide us, they tell us every step. In 7th and 8th grade, they do that, but a little less. They're like in high school, they kind of tell you, okay, it's your turn now. You got to do this on your own. And I thought that was a really cute example of like, they kind of hold your hand at the start. And then we have this gradual release, which feels like a simple thing, but to hear kids say they noticed that was really cool. Knowing like, hey, when you go to college, you're going to have to write this paper on your own. I'm not going to tell you how to start it, right? Um, I think we also give little glimpses of college. For example, in 5th grade, they start going on college tours. I took my 5th grade class to like Baker. Another group went to like UMKC. So they can just walk the campus and start to get a feel for, oh, this is what it's like, or like this is an opportunity. Maybe no one's ever shown me before. Um, they even go from class to class in cohorts named after colleges. So they can just start to think about it. Um, I think a big thing is just hearing it and having access, because if we're not telling them, who is? Like they might not know. So just giving them resources. And then that college seminar class is going to be really beneficial. Our college seminar team might bring in career connection people from universities to speak to them on their campus so they don't have to go to the campus. They help prep them for the FAFSA. They partner with trade schools. We're doing more dual credit this year and partnering with local schools. So once you graduate, you have credit for college. We even started like a program this year where students can get certified. Like one of my cross country kiddos, I coach cross country, is doing like an HVAC certification. So by the time he graduates, he already has that and could go straight into the workforce too if he chooses. So those are just a couple things, but there's a lot. There's a lot more.
I also really liked I was gonna ask a question, but you cleared it up also. I was gonna ask if there was any cross training like between disciplines, but you said that with like the team meeting in the morning also. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. A lot of collaboration. It's definitely like you work with other people, so you're not on an island. It's not going to be just up to you to plan all your lessons and do them all by yourself. In fact, much more is going to be given to you of like, hey, we already have a great structure. Let's make small edits and work together so that you're not having to do too much because that's a lot to ask.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I've got a question too. Do you do recruiting for other roles besides teaching as well, like other staff roles?
Yeah, good question. I do. Most of my work is teaching because that's always the biggest need. But we have a few departments I can kind of list out that I've hired for in the past. Right now, I don't have many openings outside of teaching, but I'm sure I will come like spring for next year. We have an operations team. So maybe you're helping with event planning, field trips, assemblies, day-to-day functions, ordering supplies, helping with transportation. There's going to be a person on our ops team for all those different buckets. College access. So that's college counselor. We do prefer if a college counselor has teaching experience because they will teach a class part of the day, but also working in higher ed is a big bonus. Trying to think outside of that, there's my department, talent, but there's just two of us, so it's pretty small. HR, we have social workers. So if someone has a counseling background or social work, they could be a school social worker. We have 4 of them on campus. And those are the main ones. A network team, which covers a lot of different things. We have a data team. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions at all? Okay, well, I think that's it then. Again, thanks for attending or watching this session. This is offered by the Park University Academic Success and Career Services Center. If you need help and you're a Park student or alumni, we can help you with your resume, cover letter, interview preparation, looking for a job, setting up LinkedIn, pretty much you name it. So feel free to reach out to us. And then again, want to thank Margo for her time and for giving this presentation.
Awesome. Thanks. And feel free to use any of my contact info to connect and ask more questions.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.